Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
My name's Mike. I'm alcoholic. I want to introduce our speaker for this evening, Bob L. from Glendale. Bob?
Hi, everybody. My name is Bob Lemke. I'm an alcoholic. I'm glad to be here. I want to thank Mike for asking me. It's always a pleasure for me to participate in the meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I think it's a little more meaningful when there's some new people here, or comparatively new people, because whether you new people realize this or not, and I'm sure you don't because we didn't, fact of life. Next to us old-timers, you're the second most important people in the room tonight. Don't ever forget it. But along that line, I really like to know tonight who the hell I'm really talking to. Is there anybody here with less than a year? Hey, man, isn't that neat? Now, newcomers, you watch this. 1 to 5 years. Look at that. 5 to 10. Look at that. 10 to 20. 20 to 30. Look at that. Look at that. 30 to 40. Yeah. 40 to 45. Anybody over 50 or under 50? 50 under 50, 45 to 50. Anybody over 50? Well, Ted, I guess you and I got it again. It's really incredible, isn't it? 150 guys or 200 guys and all this sobriety in here, it's incredible. We should all be drunk tonight. We should all be drunk. I don't know about you, but I'm right now. It's 7 o'clock 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. I'm supposed to be sitting in one of them padded sewers. You know what I'm talking about. Talking in millions and spending in dimes. Trying to impress people I don't know with money I don't have. If you're a smart drunk like me, you're trying to put the make on some dolly down there at the end of the bar and impress the heck out of them, you know? Yeah. It's just unbelievable, you know? And you know what? Right now, in one of the same padded sewers I used to hang around with, they're doing the same damn thing. 40 years later, the same thing is going on all over this country. It's unbelievable what happens in those joints, you know. And so I'm just glad to be here tonight, you know. I'm just glad to be here amongst people who really know what I'm talking about and who understand and really give a damn whether I live or die. And that's what this is all about. We all care whether each one of us, if we live or die, and we make this thing. It's very important that we make it. It's very important. I guess it's important. I better tell you a little bit about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. But I'm what this book says is a real alcoholic, you know. In fact, I'm one of them bar drinking drunks. Aren't any bar drinkers here tonight? Thank God. Look at that. You know? I mean, I don't know where the rest of you guys did your thing, but I'll tell you this. If you didn't get some bar time in, you missed a lot of fun. Yeah? I loved everything about those joints, you know? I love everything that goes on in there. I like the smell in there. I like them stools you can spin around on. I like the mirrors they got in those places. You know, Mike and I could go out here tomorrow on San Fernando Road. No kidding. Open up a joint without a mirror. Fact of life, we go broke in 2 weeks. 3 things you have to have in this country in order to operate a bar successfully. 1, you got to have the booze. 2nd, you got to have a license to sell it. And 3rd, you got to have a mirror. Or you will not make it in the bar business. That mirror, incidentally, is not there for social drinkers. Bars cannot survive on social drinkers. They depend on people who drink in volume. And you and I are the volume drinkers of this world. Social drinkers do weird stuff in bars. You bar drinkers know what I'm talking about. They come in and have a couple drinky poos, and then they start saying weird off the wall kind of crap like, I'm getting dizzy, I'm going home. Going home? We sit there all day. And we have to have something to entertain ourselves, and it's usually our own image. Thus the mirror. Yeah. We sit there all day staring in the mirror, you know. Figuring things out, you know. I like them jukeboxes they have in them places, you know. The ones that play Born to Lose all day. I even got to like the Men's John in them places. And when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, we used to have a guy around here by the name of Norm Alpe, who in my opinion is the greatest speaker Alcoholics Anonymous ever had, ever will have. And he was a bar drinking drunk, and the first time I heard him, he was up at one of these podiums just about like this, and he talked fast. I mean, he's the only man up to tonight can give a 1-hour talk in 32 minutes. I mean, he'd shoot it out there really fast, and you had to listen close to catch it. And he's up there this night, and he's going on, and all of a sudden he said something weird. At least I thought it was. I was pretty new. He said he got to be a bathroom slider in the Men's John, and one of the bananas fell out of my ears. And I thought, what's this clown talking about? You know, I thought I'd done it all by the time I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, and so did you, right? And here's this guy talking about something completely foreign to me. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. And he said bathroom sliders in the men's can, I think in the ladies too, where they have them pay toilets. Good, keen, smart alcoholics slide under the door to avoid paying. Save that money for drinking whiskey. I thought, by God, why didn't I think of that? I bet you there's a couple newcomers singing that right now. And then whenever he finished what he was doing in there, he'd slide back out. Never realizing, of course, that once you're in there, you can turn the handle and walk out. And anybody that thinks like that is a friend of mine. And so I'm eternally grateful to the Norm Alpes and the Eddie Regans and the Chuck Chamberlains and the Jimmy Ryans who said things from podiums like this to drunks like me, or I would not be here. I would not be here. They said profound stuff. I thought, how the hell do they know this? You know, and they'd all been where I'd been. I realized that. Suddenly I realized these guys have all been where I've been and done all the crazy things that I did. And they say they're alcoholic. I got to be alcoholic. Yeah. And so I am eternally grateful that for all the people who were here before us and helped this thing called Alcoholics Anonymous survive in this workaday world. And so any Texans in the room? No Texans? There it is. Ted? Yeah. I was waiting for you to hold your hand up. The reason I say that is when you talk in Texas, if in the first 5 minutes of your talk you don't tell them your sobriety date, they automatically assume you don't have one. And so in deference to the Texan in the room tonight, my sobriety date is 13th of January, 1964, which means I just celebrated 43 years. And I want you new people to know another fact of life. I did not come here primarily to get 43 years sober. I came here primarily to get all those people off my back. You know who I'm talking about? Them damn bill collectors, and that woman and those kids and that damn dog and the IRS. If they'd all get off of my back, everything would have been all right. And that's the way it really was. And so I'm eternally grateful for people who were there, just happened to be there, who told me things that I really had to know. Because when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, like all newcomers, I was a know-it-all. There wasn't anything I didn't know. If you didn't believe it, just ask me. And my sponsor said a profound thing to me early on. He said, Bob, remember this. It's what you learn after you know it all that counts. I said, where do you guys get these kind of stuff? You know where they get that? But you know, in the 60s, a lot of things were going on in this country, including Vietnam. But in addition to that, most of you people aren't even aware of this. In the 60s, in every state house in this union, high-level meetings were being held on the big subjects like absenteeism at an all-time high in this country, broken up equipment, busted up cars, broken up trucks, stolen money. And it all had to do with booze. And nobody knew what the hell to do about it. Alcoholics Anonymous was pretty new. But also at that time, thank God for you and I, 5 truck drivers in Iowa went on a drunk. And when 5 guys are missing out of a town like Ida Grove, Iowa, that's a big problem. And they were gone quite a while. And then one Saturday, a bunch of guys got together, took their pickup trucks and started searching the county for these 5 drunk truck drivers. And one of them came down this dirt road on a Saturday morning, saw this corrugated metal shed sitting there next to the dirt road, stopped the truck, got out, opened up that shed, and there they were. 3 of them were dead from alcohol poisoning. 2 of them were still alive. And they got them out, and wouldn't you know, I don't know about the second one, but the first one, he got sober. And after a very kind of short time, he got to be the governor of the state of Iowa. Isn't that incredible? And at that time, in the state of Iowa, booze was being sold at state-operated liquor stores. And you had to have a card, and it had to be punched, and you could only buy so much booze a month. And the whole system was defunct with people making up false cards and all kinds of crap. It was just a big flop. And Harold ran on the prop. His main ticket, his plank in his platform, was to open up the bars in the state of Iowa. Open up the bars. And Newsweek magazine went to see him. And Newsweek had found out that he's a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. He's a recovered alcoholic. And they say, why would you want to open up the bars? He says, because the present system is all shot. It's not working. So open them up. And then they wanted to know about his alcoholism. And he said, I'm not telling you nothing until after the election. And when he just didn't fall off a turnip truck, you know. And after the election, he sat down with a reporter from Newsweek magazine, and he told him the whole story. And they were pretty lenient in what they put in the paper or in Newsweek magazine, but everybody in the country knew that Harold was a recovered alcoholic. And he used to sneak out of the governor's mansion at 2, 3 in the morning and go call on sick drunks. And the drunk didn't even know he's the governor. And the people of Iowa loved him after 2 terms as governor. They loved him so much they sent him to the United States Senate. And he got to be the United States Senator from the state of Iowa. And wouldn't you know, as soon as he got to Washington, he met two more members of AA, senators. And he sat down and authored the first time a bill to help alcoholism in this country. And they did something that most politicians don't do. They put some money where their mouth was. And they put some money with it. And the medical profession was just thrilled to see it, because up until that time, the medical profession in this country defined alcoholism as a Valium deficiency. Yeah. Just feed them Valium, keep them quiet. They don't pay their damn bill anyhow. And when they're in the office, they tear up the whole office, disrupt the whole place, you know. Just feed them Valium, keep them quiet. That's the idea. And that was the thinking at the time. Also at that same time, the medical profession, the kids that were learning to be doctors, 1 hour in their 4 years was devoted to alcoholism. 1 hour. Today, half their time is on addiction. Half their time, half their studies are on addiction today. Maybe as a result of Harold and the boys doing what they did. Because they set up little referral agencies all over the country. It didn't cost a lot of money, but they referred people to Alcoholics Anonymous. Told them this. And the medical profession started to come to the fact that, yeah, we just have really no answer. And because they still can't today, they can't understand the phenomena of craving that Dr. Silkworth talks about in The Doctor's Opinion. You know, there's drunks all over this world, but only some of them, you and I, are the people with phenomena of craving. We're the alcoholics. And they can't understand why those other drunks don't have that. You and I. And they don't know, they have an opinion, and a very varied opinion. Because today, the medical profession in this country have two schools of thought about alcoholism. One side of the house says, it's in the genes. You get it in the genes. And the other side says, no, you get it from consumption and assumption. And I don't know who's right, and I really don't care. I just know I are one. But if this thing has anything to do with the genes, as soon as I heard it, I got a real long legal tablet, you know, them yellow tablets, and I started going back in my family tree as far back as I could to find out why the heck I'm stuck with this thing. And I got all the way back to my great-great-grandfather. Found out he was a drunk. Yeah. My great-grandfather was a drunk. My grandpa, I know, was a drunk. My dad and his two brothers are alcoholics. My oldest brother and I are members of Alcoholics Anonymous. My two kids are alcoholics. You'd almost think it's hereditary. At least in our family. And so but then there's three boys in our family. I'm the youngest. My oldest brother is in AA, but then there's my middle brother. He's a social drinker. And I watch him like a hawk. And I don't understand that, you know. Why him? And once a year we have a little family gathering. But when I was drinking, he's the guy that saved my can. It's uncanny. He's the guy that saved my can. You know, I don't know about you, but if you're bar drinkers like I am, I have another thing, another big problem. It's called big shot-itis. Any other big shots here? Yeah. Whole room full. Yeah. Give them all a drink, you know. Oh, bartender, do it again, you know. Just, you know, big shot. And then the whole check's gone. And I'm in deep doo-doo again. And I call my brother and say, I had a little financial difficulty here. Could you send me some money? And he'd send me the money. And I was always certain to pay him back because I might need him again, you know. And one time he called me and said, I heard you're drinking again. I thought, how the hell does he know that? He lives in Vallejo, California. I live in Glendale. How the hell does he know that? But I'm a quick study. I figured it out. It's my mother. She lives in Wisconsin 2,000 miles away, and she can smell whiskey out of me 2,000 miles away. And she'd call Dick and say, he's drinking again. And then he'd ask me them stupid questions that Normsies ask alcoholics, stupid. Near the end, it was really bad. He'd say things to me that just drives me crazy. He'd say, why don't you just quit? Just quit. The man's got to be nuts. I couldn't explain to him at that time, and I still can't today. He can't understand that phenomena of craving. He don't understand it. He thinks it's a bunch of BS. But when I got to have a drink, I got to have a drink. I don't give a damn what's got to come down. I got to have it, And that's the way it was. And a lot of things happen. But I watch him. He likes to drink Old Fitz on the rocks. And once a year we have a little family gathering at my house in the desert. And I watch him. And he comes in with the suitcases, drops the suitcases in the bedroom and comes running into the kitchen. Opens up the kitchen cupboard, gets that bottle of Old Fitz out, and then he picks a big glass, which is a tip-off to me. And he fills it full of ice. Then he takes that bottle and he spritzes it around like this, big deal. Takes that glass of whiskey and goes in my living room, sits down on my couch, takes that glass of whiskey, puts it on my end table, picks up a book and starts to read. I tell him, for God's sake, man, drink it! You know what he does? He sits there for 2 hours, sipping and reading. At last, I have to leave the house. I don't know about you, but I can't stand that. I don't know how anybody can do that. I mean, most of the people I know today are members of Alcoholics Anonymous, and we don't sip nothing. We don't sip water. Look down. Soda pop, root down. Norm just asks us, you drank it already? Like they're checking up on you or something. It's gotten so now, I don't trust sippers. There's got to be something wrong with those people. And so I am eternally grateful that people taught me some of this stuff. And then they said something else about this genes thing, I didn't only go back in my family tree. I'm the kind of nut, I go all the way back to day one, as far back as I can get, And I've come up with some conclusions. And I realize now they're my conclusions. And I'm stuck with them, But I've come to the conclusion the day I was born, I had 2 strikes against me right out of the chute, First of all, I was born in this little town in Wisconsin. And you all know how little towns are. Everybody knows everybody's business. And sometimes that's good, and sometimes that's bad. And in my case, it was always bad. And the second strike I had against me was my dad was assistant chief of police in that damn town. And he was about 6'4", weighed 240 pounds, wore a uniform, carried a gun. Scared the living bejesus out of you. And for the first 15 years in my life, I did everything that turkey told me to do. If he told me to run to the store, I literally ran to the store. I didn't slow down when I got out of sight, neither. And I'd run all the way back. If he told me to rake the leaves, I even raked the neighbor's leaves. If he told me to carry out the trash, I carried out everything that even looked like trash. And he taught me very early in life, if 5 flakes of snow fell on our sidewalk, it was my job to take it off of there. And I did that religiously out of fear, because I knew deep down inside, if he ever hit me, he'd kill me. He's a big moose and a tough cop, and I'm scared to death of him. I mean, little things like that. I told you I got this idea, this thing that happens to all human beings. About the age of 15, something happens to human beings. Medical science to this day can't explain it. You know that it happened to you, and I know that it happened to me. I don't know how it happened to you, but I have a concept about that. I think it came floating on a cloud in my bedroom at night, went kaboom. And no bells or whistles went off, but the next morning I knew something was different. I can remember this like it was yesterday. Got up, got dressed, went downstairs, had breakfast, headed off to school. No big deal, right? Came home from school at noon. It was snowing. I know my job, right? What this thing, it happened in the night. You know, almost like a change of attitude or something. I mean, things like, what will the neighbors say? A genius out there shoveling snow. You know? Have you ever had that feeling? I said, screw it, I just won't do it no more. I've done it long enough, I'm just not doing it no more. I don't care what he does, I'm not going to do it no more. Took that shovel and set it up against the house, went inside, sat down at the kitchen table, started to eat my lunch. Then I heard the squad car pull up in front, and I heard the car door slam. And I heard the shovel out there on the sidewalk, and I said to myself, it's about time he does something around here. Have you ever had the feeling like you got to do it all? That's the way I felt. And he came in the house all out of breath because he wasn't used to that manual labor. I'm doing it all. Took off that uniform cap and that big heavy mackinaw I wear in the winter and that Sam Brown belt and that 45. Laid it on the dining room table like he did every day. Came in the kitchen, sat down at the kitchen table right across from me. And then he threw me a curve. He didn't say a word. And if you'd just been endowed with the smarts, that will drive you nuts. Yeah. I'm just waiting for him to say something. I've been saving it up for 15 years. And today is the day. And I finished my lunch ahead of him, and I had to go back to school. I can remember that like it was this noon. Got up, walked around the kitchen table, had to go past him, out through the dining room, through the living room, out the front door, back to school. I can't explain this. I'm sure you understand it. I just knew deep down inside, I could not let a situation like this go by without saying something. You guys have all been there. And I looked him right in the eye, reached down inside, got this pearl of wisdom I'd just been endowed, right? Looked him right in the eye. Said the smartest thing I could think of. I said, is the snow heavy today? Big mistake. He didn't say a word again. He just kind of turned in the chair like this and came all the way from right field with a flat of the hand, direct hit. And I took off in the air up against the dining room windows. And when I came to, I developed another bad attitude. I said to myself, and only to myself, nobody can hit me like that and get away with it. I'll get even with him, by God, if it kills me. But I want to tell you something else. Maybe 10 seconds before he hit me. He's the sun, moon, and stars in my life. And that's what I'm going to be when I get big and all that kind of crap. And all he had to do was hit me one time. One time, and the only time he ever hit me in my life. That fast. I hate his guts. And in the quiet of my room at night, I used to plan his demise. Now, I understand today that's not proper thinking for a 15-year-old to be planning his father's demise. But that's the way it really was. About a year after that hitting incident, some of these things I'm about to tell you, I believe, including the hitting incident, have all had a direct effect on my attitude towards people, places, and things. And by the time I got to the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous, my attitude towards people, places, and things was really messed up. About a year after that hitting incident, another big deal happened in my life, at least to me it was. Another cold winter day in Wisconsin, snow piled up as high as those windows. And three of my supposed friends and I came home from school, headed down the street, get to the corner to go down to my house. And there, passed out in the snowbank in full uniform, is my dad, dead drunk. And these three supposed friends of mine started teasing me about my drunk dad, that drunk cop. And we went to Fifth City right there, and I won. But I'll never forget the feelings and emotions I had that day. I realized then and there that he had disgraced that uniform he wore, disgraced that badge he wore, and lost the faith and trust of that community that he had pledged his life to protect and to serve. Big deal. About a year after that big deal, another big deal happened. At the age of 47, he died of chronic alcoholism. Didn't say that on his death certificate, incidentally. He's a big shot in that town. It said heart disease. But those of us who knew him and loved him knew the booze had gotten the best of him. And the night he died, all three of us boys were there and Mom, and we're in the room with him when he's drawing his last breath. And I couldn't take it anymore. And I stepped out in the hallway. And the hallway was like from here to that kitchen, lined with cops from one end to the other. And it was something. Never forget it. About a year after that big deal, another big deal happened in my life. I was going with this gal. When I say we were going together, we started out in kindergarten together. Same kindergarten, same grade school, same high school, same Sunday school, same church. Right out of high school, we got married. It was a beautiful event, crossed white shotguns, everything. She never did like me to say that, you know. I used to slough it off by saying it happens in the best regulated families, right? And right after we got married, like all women, she started to demand things like furniture to sit on and curtains on the windows and all that stuff. And I don't have any money. And so I go down and see my dad's buddy, the chief of police. Told the chief, she wants all this stuff, and I don't have any money. And he said, go up to the sheriff's department tomorrow. I think they need help. And if you come from a small town, you know the process. One phone call. One phone call. Walked in the sheriff's department the next morning, they pinned a gold badge on me. And I got to be a drunk cop just like my dad. Time doesn't permit me to tell you what can happen to a drunk cop, except stir up some old resentments, and God knows you probably don't need it anymore, especially when it comes to cops. Big cop hater right there, 3 back there, 2 over there. I can spot him a mile away. You forgot one, there's another one. But I'll tell you right now, if I could be anything in this world, I could be today, still be a cop. I loved every minute of it. Like all the excitement, the camaraderie, and everything that goes with being a cop. And I don't know what's going on in your life prior to your entry in Alcoholics Anonymous, but I'll tell you another fact of life. Do you know that 99 out of 100 human beings have one thing in their life that's the single most important thing in their life? And in 99 out of 100 cases, that one single thing is another human being. Isn't it incredible? It's another human being. It's a wife, a husband, a lover, a child, a parent, grandparent, aunts, uncles. Somebody is the single most important thing in 99 out of 100 people's lives, except cops. And they all have one thing that's above all human things. It's a damn badge. And everybody that's ever carried one will tell you the same thing I'm about to tell you. I'd have done anything short of murder to keep that damn badge. And this woman, you know, she comes from one of them Normsey families, whatever that is. I mean, she didn't know anything about alcoholism, Alcoholics Anonymous, Al-Anon, Alateen, Alatot, none of that stuff. All she knew is she loved a drunk cop and it was driving her nuts. And at that time in my life, I'm a phony, a cheat, a liar, and a con. If you don't know what a con is, you're looking at one. But I did spot a couple more in here tonight. Glad all you con artists are here. I don't know about you, but I got really good at it. You know, I could con you out of your socks and you wouldn't even know it. I think I could do it again with a couple weeks practice. And she just was at a loss. She just, God rest her soul. She was just totally lost. And our life started going down the sewer. Our married life started going down the sewer. And if there's any newcomers here, I want you to know I don't have a couple warrants in my pocket and you start heading for the doors, you know. They took that badge away from me a long time ago, and next to the night she died, it was probably the second worst night of my life. Nothing I planned, because like if I tell you, if I had my choice, I'd be out there riding a black and white today. But it all came down one night, a bunch of cops and our wives going to have a party. And I don't think there's anything different, incidentally, between a cops party and a civilian party, except maybe at the cops party the booze is all free. And that's where drunks like me really shine, and drunks like you. I mean, I just love free booze parties. And I'm not there's another one there. I'm not one of them drunks at a free booze party sitting back there in the corner sipping on drinks with a little pinky sticking out, you know. I'm back there in the kitchen, or the supply is, with both hands, getting all I can get while the getting's good in case they run out, you know. And I don't know how long we were there. And she sidled up next to me in the kitchen and says, "We're leaving." I said, "What are you talking about, woman? We just got here." At least it seemed like that to me. And she said, she looked at me with them cold Al-Anon eyes. She said, "We're leaving." And I don't know to this day how she got the keys, because I'm like you know. It's my car, I drive. I'm sure nobody here ever said that. And she had the keys and we left. And all the way home she started bad-mouthing me again about my drinking. You know, this whole thing is in the book. It talks about this. You and I, who are real alcoholics, go through life with blinders on us, like they put on horses, and we don't see anything that way, and we don't see anything that way. It's our way or no way. We're very selfish individuals. And she's yakking away at me, and I believe the one thing that us alcoholics have that other people don't have, we're all born with a switch up here. When they're telling us these god-awful truths, we just shut it off. I mean, it don't even hit the eardrum. Chew, right over the top. And she's yakking away at me, telling me these god-awful truths I don't want to hear. And she says, this drinking is causing no end of problems in our life. I said, "No, what are you talking about?" She says, "First of all, it's affecting our social life." I said, "Yeah, how's that?" She says, "We just had to leave that party back there for one reason and one reason only." I said, "Yeah, what's that?" She said, "Because of your dirty, filthy mouth." I'm sure nobody here believes that either. And then she said, "Not only that, it's affecting every other aspect of our life." And I said, "Now what are you talking about?" She said, "It's affecting our home life, our family life, our kids' lives, our financial life, our sex life. Everything about us is being affected by your drinking." Now I'm certain she flipped her lid or something. And we got in the house and she wouldn't shut up. And I reached for the only thing I know would shut her up, a 38. I said, "Woman, I've heard all I'm ever going to hear from you about my drinking, and I'll blow your damn brains out." And she took off like a deer. Shoo! Out the front door of that house, 6 blocks down the street to the only place she knew she could get help, right? The sheriff's office that I work at. And I'd have got her, too, if she just slowed down. She was going. And you'd have a different speaker here tonight. I'd probably be up there walking the yard yet, talking the talk and walking the walk. And so I'm eternally grateful to something. Call it any damn thing you want to. I choose to call it God. For some unbeknownst reason, I didn't pull that trigger. And I came out of that blackout standing in the middle of the sheriff's office at 3 o'clock in the morning in the squad room. And all the guys are coming off the late shift, and they're standing around the squad room talking about all the crap that happened last night. And there's me, with a 38 man, going to kill somebody. And all the guys are kind of looking at me kind of funny. You know how your family, friends, fellow workers look at you when you're drunken as skunk? They kind of look down their nose at like you're some kind of second-class citizen or something. I can't even describe it. But I'll tell you another fact of life. If you don't know what I'm talking about right this second, you do not belong here. Those people near and dear to us really look at us funny when we're drunken as skunk. And they're all looking at me kind of funny. And then the boss, the elected sheriff of that county, came in the squad room, looked at those guys coming off the late shift. Then he looked at me. And for a long time, I had a big resentment against him. But I know, having been a boss recently, I know today he had to make a management decision, and he had to do it damn fast. And he came up to me and looked me right in the eye and says, "Bob, hand it over, the badge and the gun." And he took away that badge and that gun and that uniform, and I had to go out there and face that world bare naked. That's too much for a normal person, much less a drunk like me. So at the age of 31, I did the most adult, mature thing I could think of. I ran away from home. If there's any runners here tonight, I want to talk to you outside after the meeting. But I'll tell you what, no matter where I go in this country or any other country, these rooms are full of runners. You know that? Running to something, running from something. And every runner who's ever come to Alcoholics Anonymous, including me, we all forgot one thing, and we all forgot the same identical thing. It's incredible. And that is, no matter where you're running to or running from, you forgot it, I forgot it. I had to bring me along, and you had to bring you along. And you is the problem, and me is the problem. And you can't make this thing alone, and I can't make this thing alone. But together we can make it. And that's the miracle it talks about in our book. One drunk talking to another, and it works. Works to the tune of over 3 million sober members of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's good enough for me. And I consider myself a very fortunate member of this fellowship, because over the years I've had the privilege, and I mean a privilege, to probably eyeball 50% of them. Eyeball to eyeball. I believe that's an earned privilege. It is not given. You earn the right to do this. Suit up and show up and do what's asked of you in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I hope and pray before they throw dirt in my face, I'll get to meet them all. But I'll tell you another fact of life that's an odd thing to say in a group like this. Some of the finest people I have ever met in my life, in my entire life, all turned out to be sober members of Alcoholics Anonymous. And there's a bunch of them sitting here tonight, and you all know who you are. And so I'm just eternally grateful to sit amongst you and be counted amongst you. No better than, no less than. Just dead even. Dead even. That's what we are when we come here. Dead even. We have a couple of self-appointed gurus, but we just pray for them. You all know who I'm talking about. Not saying any names around here. All right. No, it's not proper. So I'm eternally grateful that, I have to tell you about my last drunk, and then we'll get out of here. Because I say this with absolute authority. If you can't remember your last drunk, you probably haven't had it yet. And I don't know about any of you, but I never want to forget what was going on in my life the day I walked into Alcoholics Anonymous in utter desperation. And if you're new here today, God love you. I hope you're as desperate about this deal as you've been anything in your life. Because I believe the more desperate you are about this deal, the better shot you got at making it. And my last drunk was no big deal. I didn't sit around and plan it for 3 weeks or something. It just happened. It was a Friday night, the 27th of December, 1963. Just finished eating dinner. Made the big announcement to that woman and those kids. Told them I'm going out and have a couple of beers with the guys. I'll be back in 2 hours. And she started that yak, 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 yak. You know what I'm talking about? And I said, listen, woman, I want to tell you something for the last time. I just put in 40 for a bunch of ingrates around here. And I'm going out there and commiserate with my friends, and I'll be back in 2 hours. Now knock it off. And that was the 27th of December, 1963, at about 7 in the evening. And I got back on the 13th of January, 1964. Can't tell you to this day where the hell I was. I know on the 27th of December, 1963, I went to my favorite watering hole, a place called the Prelude. Now, isn't that a nice name for a dump? It has the connotation you're only going to be there for a little bit. The Prelude on Lancashire Boulevard in North Hollywood, which really ain't a hell of a lot to shoot for. It was one of them padded sewers I'd started hanging out. You know the kind I'm talking about? They didn't even have a front door. Just curtains hanging there. You've been in one, huh? I went there really to meet these lifelong drinking buddies of mine who I just met 2 weeks ago, right? And sure enough, they were all there. And we started doing the things that real drunks do in bars, like I told you in the beginning. Talking in millions, spending in dimes, trying to impress people we don't know with money we don't have. trying to put the make on some dolly down there in the barn. And amongst the 6 guys I met, fact of life, there wasn't one common laborer in the whole bunch. Yeah, we were all brain surgeons and jet pilots and astronauts and doctors and lawyers and devout liars. And in this group of 6 guys, there was a new guy. His name was Pete. And Pete was one of those intellectual giants you meet in bars. Again, you bar drinkers know. That's the guy that sits down there at the end of the bar and has the answer to every living subject in the world. And they drive people like you and I nuts, you know. If you had marital problems, and I had marital problems, he had the answers. If you had legal problems, he had the answers. If you had medical problems, he had the answers. If you had engineering problems, he had the answers. I thought he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. I thought, how can one guy know so much about so many things? And he continued that drunk with us, and thank God he did, because as it turned out, Pete was really quite the guy. He was the one guy in the group who it seemed was always well enough to make the run for the rest of us who were too sick to make the run. Pete could find a jug on election day in a dry state. You know, one of them great guys? And besides that, he had A negative blood, and I stuck pretty close to him. Just lost half the room again. You know, I know it. By the time I get out of this meeting and head for my car over here, 3 people at least are going to tap me on the shoulder, ask me the same damn question the world over. All they say, "Hey man, what do you mean by that A negative blood crap?" And just so we don't plug up the parking lot here tonight, I'll tell you ahead of time. First of all, if you have A negative blood, it's rare blood. And when you're selling it to buy wine, you get more for A negative than any other kind of blood. So I stuck close to Pete, you know. I mean, I might have been born at night, but not last night. And I can't tell you the serious events that happened, but I was passing in and passing out all the time. And I can't tell you how it all came about. But early one morning, we all came to, and Pete didn't. And he had swallowed his tongue that night in a convulsion, in an alcoholic convulsion, and he was deader than a doornail. And I got fighting mad at everything and everybody, and God, if there is a God. Because my great intellect and better judgment took over instantly, which incidentally got you here and got me here. Our great intellect and better judgment takes over, you know. And my great intellect and better judgment tells me, you know, if there's a God, why would he let a good guy like Pete go, who knows everything there is to know about everything, and let me stay? And I can't tell you the serious events, but I got scared. A little voice went off in my head that morning when Pete was laying there dead. Little voice said something to me in my head. It says, "Bob, you're next." And I don't know about you, but I started to get scared. I thought cops aren't supposed to get scared. But I got real scared. And for the first time in my adult life, I got down on my knees in that sewer, cried out to a God I was absolutely certain did not exist. And if he did exist, he didn't want anything to do with a drunk like me. But I said the most honest, sincere prayer I've ever uttered in my life. I said, "God, if there be a God, the only prayer I know is help me." And through a series of miracles, I ended up in my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And my wife said to me sometime thereafter, she said, after I got home, she says, "What time was that?" I said, "I think it was around 7 or something because the sun was coming up." She says, "Isn't that funny?" I said, "You know, what's so funny about that?" She says, "You know, I was sitting at my desk at Warner Brothers that morning, and about that moment, I started crying at my desk. And this big guy comes walking through the secretary pool, vice president of Warner Brothers, tapped her on the shoulder, says, "You better do that in here." And he took her in his office, and she started letting it all out about this guy that's the father of her children and the man she really loves. And she said she saved up enough money and today's the day she's taking the kids and going back. And he said, why don't you have them try Alcoholics Anonymous? And she said, how do you know? And he said, because I are one. And that was the first time in 37 years at the studios that Matt broke his anonymity that morning to help one sick drunk, me. And I got to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous that night, and she went along to make damn sure I got there. And I left my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous with sore ribs. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? All night long. God rest her soul. She really was an instrument in my recovery. And she got to be a black belt Al-Anon. But I'll tell you, I want to tell you about her. On the 23rd of November 2001, she was diagnosed with melanoma cancer. And on the 23rd of December, 30 days later, God came and took her from me. 3 weeks short of 54 years of marriage. And I don't know about you, but that was like a kick in the gut for me. And my life has changed, I'll tell you. Something that's hard to even think about. And I hope you guys start to think about it, because I think I missed it until she was gone. But it's a fact of life that women, only women, can make a house a home. Men cannot do that. For some unbeknownst reason, men cannot do that. So today I live in a house again, and it's the pits, the living pits. And I don't know, but Alcoholics Anonymous saved my can again, because that was the 23rd of December 2001 at 8 o'clock at night. The next day was Christmas Eve, and the phone started ringing. I don't know how it got out, but the phone started ringing from all over California and Los Angeles and up north, and the Canadians started calling. And my kids had lists about this long of people from Alcoholics Anonymous calling to say, how are you doing, Bob? You know what they meant by that? If there's anything you want right now, I'll be there. That's the difference between our organization and any other one in the world. We'll be there. We give a damn whether you make it or not. And that's what I'm so proud to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sometimes it scares the hell out of me. And they saved my can. One of them just called this afternoon before I left the house from Vancouver, British Columbia. Say, how you doing, Bob? Just things like that, you know? Like they really give a damn. And I am eternally grateful. I am so grateful to this organization, I can't tell you. And so, like I say, I got to that meeting that night, and I'm unemployed again. The word is out. Don't hire him, he's a drunk. And I got to that club. I went back to that clubhouse, walked in the door, there's no meetings going on. 3 old goats sitting over here in the corner playing cribbage. I walk in the door like that, and they stopped playing cribbage. And one of them poked the other one and pointed at me, and he says, we better do something with that one, or he's going to start jackknifing around the room here, you know. I mean, I wasn't nervous, just quick, you know. And they applied the only therapy those two guys knew. They gave me a bucket of paint and a paintbrush, figuring that I could paint faster than anybody else in the place. And I painted that damn clubhouse, and I can't tell you to this day how long I painted. Don't know. Might have been 5 days, 50 days, I just don't know. But I'll never forget the day I finished it, a bright Saturday morning like today. Put away the buckets and cleaned everything up just perfect, because we're perfectionists too, you know. And I find out that cribbage player, one of them, was a painter all his life. And the old thinking came back that fast. Why me, God? Why wasn't he up there painting? And I'll fix their clocks. I'll get drunk at every damn one of these phonies. And I headed out the back door of that clubhouse, bound and determined to quit Alcoholics Anonymous, get drunk at every damn one of you. And then God, as I understand God, had to perform another miracle, and I had to do it damn fast. I'm going. I reached for that push bar on the back door of the clubhouse. It's on the second story. The door opened up, and here's this guy, this clown, standing on the landing. He smiles from ear to ear, and he says, "Hi!" I said, "Shove it." He says, "Why do you say that to me? I don't even know you." I said, "Shove it anyhow." He said, "Come here, I want to talk to you." Brought me back in the meeting hall and set me down in these hemorrhoid chairs. You know them gold medal ones? I told him about that, the gray-haired goats, and they made me paint that club, and I'm going to get drunk at every damn one of them. And he ended up being my sponsor. And he said, "If I'm going to be your sponsor, 3 things are going to happen to you, man. 1, you're going to go to meetings. 2, you're going to study that book. And 3, for the first time in your adult life, you're going to follow instructions." I thought, how the hell does he know that? And they say at that time there were 700 meetings a week in the greater Los Angeles area, and we made them all. Yeah, I mean, it was meetings every night. And newcomers, it's going to happen to you because it's happened to everyone else, so don't feel bad about it. You're going to say to your wife, your husband, your buddy, your girlfriend, meetings every night. Tonight I'm not going. And that night he came by early. Put me in the car and started down the freeway. I says, "Where are we going tonight?" He's a crusty old bugger, you know. And he says, "We're going to the hole in the ground." I thought, oh my God, now they're going to bury me. And for those of you who don't know where the hole in the ground is or was, it was underneath the E-Bill Club in Huntington Park, California. It was started by a guy by the name of Tex Adams, who'd been sober since Lincoln had the measles. And thank God for people like Tex who started places like that for drunks like me. And he told me I had to go to this. And I had to study this book, you know. Oh, Jesus. And I went down the steps into the E-Bill Club that night, and I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, "Joe, I got to ask you something." He turned right around real gruff, you know, like he was, you know. "Yeah, what do you want now?" And I knew that second he'd had me up to here. He was sick and tired of my BS, and I knew it. And I asked him that world-famous question that all newcomers are compelled to ask their sponsor. How long do I have to go to these goddamn meetings? And this wise old man with the X-ray vision got fighting mad that fast. Took his index finger, shoved me into the corner outside the meeting hall so he wouldn't hear it inside. When he got me in the corner where I couldn't get away, he started to get violent. Yeah, he took his index finger and started to hit me in the chest like this. He started to scream. He said, "You idiot!" I didn't like that. He said, "You have to go to meetings until you want to go to meetings. Then you don't have to go to meetings anymore." Didn't make much sense then, but it sure does now. And that night, because he hit me in the chest and screamed at me, "I'll fix his clock. I might have to be in the meeting, but I'm not going to listen." Couple here tonight doing that, you know. And I don't know what you do when you're sitting in a meeting not wanting to be in a meeting. But I was uptight like a spring. I'm saying to myself, this jerk, night after night, hauling me to these damn meetings, I'm going crazy. And if you're in that frame of mind, you aren't about to hear anything, you know. And then some guy ticked me off. He got up here and read something from the book, and I never heard that before. It says, if you want what we have and are willing to go to any lengths to get it. I'm sitting in the front row so you don't nod off, right? And I turned around and looked this herd over, and I thought, my God, I wouldn't have drank with half of these people. I wouldn't have drank with half of these people right now. I mean, there's some more I wouldn't drink with right now. Right there for sure. Ricardo, I would never drink with that guy. And Larry, I would never drink with him. And I'm just going nuts, you know. I just can't wait till it's over. It's just driving me nuts. And then I had to do something to pass the time, so I started counting light bulbs. I had a blast in here. And then I ran out of light bulbs, and I started winking at girls. And then I run out of girls. I'm ready to flip. And I spot this guy about 5 rows back. He's scribbling on a piece of paper. I didn't know you had to take notes here. And I watch him. And he takes this piece of paper he's scribbling on, took it in his hand, headed for the door, like that. Goes to the door, takes this piece of paper he's been scribbling on, put it on the bulletin board on the back door. Took a pin, stuck it on there, and split. I didn't know you could do that. And I'm an ex-cop, and I'm nosy by nature. And I got to find out what's on that piece of paper. Big deal, you know. And I sneak over to the bulletin board, get that piece of paper off the bulletin board. And I read it, and it made sense. And when nobody was looking, I stole it. Yeah. Put it in my pocket, took it along home. And on the days when I was absolutely certain that I just can't make this thing, you know. It might be all right for you clowns, but I can't make it. And yet I didn't want to go back out there in them damn cold cars and start drinking rot-gut wine again and die like my buddy Pete. So I read it and save it, and it's time to get out of here. It's a little poem entitled Which Place. I dreamed one night I passed away and left this world behind. Started down that lonesome trail, some of my friends to find. Came to a signboard on the trail, directions it did tell. Keep right to go to heaven, turn left to go to hell. I hadn't been too good on earth, just a hopeless, boozing rake. I knew there at the crossroads the path I'd have to take. So I started on a rocky path that leads to Satan's place, and shook within not knowing just what I'd have to face. Old Satan met me at the gate. What's your name, my friend? I said, I'm just old sober Sam that's come to a sad end. He glanced through some files. You made a mistake, I fear. You're listed as an alcoholic. We don't want you here. I said, I'm looking for my friends. And a smile stole over his face. If your friends are alcoholic, they're in the other place. So I went back the other way till the crossroads I did see and turned right to heaven, as happy as could be. St. Peter smiled and said, come in. For you, I have a birth. You're an alcoholic. You've been through hell on earth. I saw old Dub and old Pete too, Bill C. and a friend called Bell. And brother, I was tickled because I thought they'd gone to hell. So brothers, all take warning, learn something from my trip. You got a place in heaven if you try hard not to slip. If someone tempts you with a drink when you're not feeling well, just tell him you're going to heaven and he can go to hell. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. Shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.